And one thing that he actually brought up that we want to talk about here on the show is stud players and when do you bench them. And two guys that me and Steph were talking about are Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper. So Cooper Kupp has had a couple bad games in a row. He had a goose 2 weeks ago, 0 catches. Then this past week he had the one big 50-yard catch where he was dragged down at the 1, and that was about it. He had another catch or two in that game, but he only had 8 fantasy points. And Amari Cooper is a guy who's been hurt and only played 50 to 60-ish% of snaps this past week. I think it was about 55. And he's playing the Patriots this week in a really tough matchup. So we're looking at rosters and we're talking about when do you bench a guy like Cooper Kupp or Amari Cooper, or do you ever do it, and do you just rely on their talent to get you by regardless of matchup? Steph, what do you think about these two guys?
Yeah, I'll talk about Cooper Kupp first. I mean, if you're considering Kupp against a waiver option or a guy who's typically in the flex range, I would still put Kupp out there this week. Even, a good Rams defense will still get torched by Lamar Jackson, both in the air and on the ground. And I think the Rams will need to score in this game and maybe playing from behind and trying to air it out. You have Brandon Cooks, who's back in the game. He should take away some of the attention from Marlon Humphrey. So I think Marcus Peters, I'm not sure who he typically lines up on or what he does. I need to dig a little bit deeper into the Ravens secondary on defense, but I do think Kupp could be effective in this game. If you have other solid options like Jarvis Landry against Miami or Devontae Parker against Cleveland, I would go with them. But with Cooks back and potentially Robert Woods as well, that was kind of a weird situation where he was just out suddenly before the game against the Bears on Sunday night. If they're both back, I think Baltimore, with it being a tough matchup, is still an all right play for Cooper Kupp. And you're going to hate yourself if you sit Cooper Kupp and throw another waiver guy in there and Kupp blows up for 25 points or more.
Yeah, I agree with you there. You have to rely on the talent regardless of matchup with these guys. And like you said, if there's guys in that mid-tier, that wide receiver 2 category, like a Jamison Crowder, a Jarvis Landry, like you said, or a Calvin Ridley, I think it's perfectly fine to go with those guys. But if you're looking at your roster and you're thinking about putting a D.D. Westbrook in or a Deebo Samuel or a guy like that, or a Randall Cobb who's been hot lately, I think you still have to go with the talent of a Cooper Kupp or Amari Cooper. And there's probably not a lot of teams out there with the option to sit a guy like Cooper or Cooper Kupp for one of those wide receiver 2s. So I think you just have to look at your roster and see, is this guy still talented like a Calvin Ridley with opportunity? Or is it a guy that's probably not going to get a ton of opportunity off the waiver wire and is kind of a Hail Mary play? So at the end of the day, I think you just have to evaluate your roster and see what's best for your team. But I'm perfectly fine sitting what's been top tier guys like Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper thus far this season for some other guys with better trends and better matchups.
Yeah, and to talk about Amari real quickly, I actually am totally okay sitting him this week against the Patriots. We know what they do. They take away your best option. That's what Belichick always does. And in the air, that's been Amari Cooper at least over the last 2 seasons. So I don't feel great about starting Amari Cooper this week. I would put Kupp way higher than Cooper just personally. I know some people, maybe they'll disagree. That's just my take. I'm looking for other options. If I'm looking at Amari Cooper, I'd rather bench him and wait for an easier matchup.
I agree with you there. And that's our quick rundown on the 2 Coopers, Amari Cooper and Cooper Kupp.